Hello and welcome. My name is Neve Brooke, and today I'm joined with my fellow programmers Shelby Cook, Will Schofield and Ishnaw to discuss Jonathan Dayton and Valerie Faris's Little Miss Sunshine. This segment is a part of Film East, a Norwich-based young film programmers group. Released in 2006, Little Miss Sunshine tells the story of Olive Hoover and her family as they travel across America in an old, yellow VW camper van. The family need to reach California in order for Olive to compete in the Little Miss Sunshine beauty pageant. This road trip comedy delves into topics such as mediocrity, striving for more, accepting yourself, and the power of family. And in this podcast, we're going to take a deep dive into how this film tells this funny little story and what that story means to us.
So, to start off, did we enjoy the film? Like, did everyone enjoy it, or did everyone think this is a load of rubbish and never want to watch it again?
Well, I watched this film for the first time when I was younger. And I guess I did enjoy it when I was younger, and I just remember it being like, oh, this is a very melancholic film. It's very sweet. It's very wholesome. But I don't think I fully understood it because I was so young. And now rewatching it this time, I didn't remember much of it. I knew that she went to this beauty pageant and that she didn't conform to the beauty pageant type of girl, and that she was an oddball and they're all oddball outcasts. But I really enjoyed the different character developments and sort of first of all, the queer undertones that were in it with Steve Carell being a gay man. I did not remember that at all. And then the brother refusing to speak out of his moral mission that he's on, which is just so weird. And the father being just a horrible prick, but at least he got he redeemed himself at the end. But I think I enjoyed it just as much as I did the first time, if not more, because I felt like I could understand it better.
Yeah, I also watched it. I've watched it many times in my life when I was quite young. And I think there's kind of a set of coming of age dramas of this type that I kind of continuously go through and rewatch. There's like Kings of Summer, there's the Way Back. But they're kind of different because they focus more on the younger protagonist, whereas this one focuses a lot more on the entire family dynamic and the various different bits and pieces, kind of uses all the characters individually, which I think is very fairly uncommon, especially because this is to an extent a coming of age movie, but it's kind of the dad's coming of age almost, more than anyone else's. And again, like Shelby said, that was something that I completely missed when I was watching it as a kid. I was in it for the fun dance scenes at the end and Paul Dano screaming his little heart out on a hillside. But yeah, I think being able to kind of rewatch it throughout the life has given it a more interesting perspective as my kind of understanding of it evolved over time.
I love that we all seem to have a really similar experience of that, because we all range in age from gonna say 20 to 25 plus. We are all that kind of age range. In 2006 we would have been children. We would have been really young, and I had the same thing where I watched this film at probably 10, and the only thing I remembered about it was the granddad escape scene. I don't want to spoil too much, but because I was like, oh, that's funny, but I just didn't get it. And I watched it again for the first time during COVID, and I had this profound, visceral experience watching it. I was like, this is the most lovely film. It brings me so much joy. And every time I don't know what to watch, I put Little Miss Sunshine on, and I'm like, oh, I understand myself. I understand the world experience. I just love this film. So I think it's weird that we've all had that. Well, probably not as profound as I had that experience, but we've all had that. It was funny. Oh, this is a very good film. It's a real grower.
Yeah, I mean, I watched it for the second time when we had to watch it for this episode. And when I watched it for the first time, I felt really uncomfortable watching it, not because of what was happening in the movie, but because of how the movie was shot. So I was like, okay, make the horn stop and make this adventure stop. Let them reach the beauty pageant. I want to see what happens there. So I was feeling uncomfortable while watching it. I was feeling a little, okay, stop it, enough of it. But when I watched it this time, I realized one thing, that this movie has a very good balance with a lot of chaos which is happening and the calmness which is coming with it. So that I really liked, because I mean, the young protagonist Olive being so innocent, and the dance that she performs, which the society takes it not so well. So I like that balance that this movie creates, which I understood when I watched it for the second time.
Yeah, it's great. And like you say, like the chaos is very prevalent in this film. Like the family are so, mismatched and like chaotic. They don't blend well, but that's what works so well. And I watched this YouTube video in preparation for this, and Movie Sketch has a great analysis of the film. But you said the chaos with the van. He made this really good point where alone the van won't work. Like the dad can't push the car and start it, but as a family they can all get the car to work. And it's just a big metaphor of working together to help each other grow and learn about themselves. And I was like, that just sums the film up, that it's chaotic, them working together, and that time spent in the van fixes each other and fixes the family dynamic. And I just think it's a really clever little detail that just adds so much more to the storytelling.
I remember when I was young, we had the DVD of it, and the DVD case was all yellow, no background or anything, and the only image on there was the van rolling along and all of them running alongside it. So clearly, like, that was a theme that they thought was important enough to just kind of put on the front cover.
I remember that. I think it's quite iconic, because that's when I think of the film, I think of them running, absolutely pegging it.
Yeah, and that's the thing that you remember from at least the first time I watched it when I was younger. As I just remember the van. So it is that's a really great point, that the van plays as much of a central role, as much of a character in the story as all of the different family members do.
I suppose you could call it a driving force.
Ayo!
Narrative. Thank you everyone. So moving forward, there are a lot of oddball characters in this film. I think that is what makes the film so wonderful. Do you have a favourite character in the film, and is there a particular reason why you're drawn to their arc? Because every single main character in this film, goes through their journey.
I am a sucker for a Toni Collette mother, in anything, or just for Toni Collette in anything. I think a big part of the reason that I appreciate or liked her character was that she wasn't, unlike most of the others who were kind of motivated almost by outward goals and stuff. The dad wants his book deal, Olive wants to get to the tournament, and the Paul Dano character, the son, is like, in a wider sense, desires like the fly planes and stuff. She was purely, her only motivation was kind of looking after her family and stuff. And so though she did have growth like the others, and she did kind of face hardship, hers was a lot more almost self-sacrificial than the others. Like the father, whenever he kind of hit a roadblock, it was kind of him getting in his own way, to the detriment of his family, and kind of karmic punishment, whereas her struggles were a lot more, I don't know, more unfair almost.
Well, and I think that's a reflection on how people perceive motherhood, that you have to sacrifice your entire self for your family, and that your identity and what you need in life isn't important anymore. It's those that are around you that's more important. And that's a really interesting observation, because I didn't think about that when I first watched it, is that she doesn't really have, her problem is that she doesn't have her own identity, and that she is the fixer of the family.
I think with you saying that, it's just raised an idea in my head. I think it makes that final scene at the end of the film where she's fighting, she's like, Olive is Olive, we have to let her be. It's like her realizing that she's given up who she is, and she will not let that happen to her daughter. I think that makes it more poignant at the end of the film.
And that's why I think, well, speaking of favorite characters, I love Olive, because I was very much the bigger girl in the dance class. Everyone made fun of me. Like, I did not fit in. I was such an oddball. I was just out there because I had the passion for dance. And like, so just like she does, she's like so hyped about doing her beauty pageant, and she's in it because she just really loves doing it, and she gets really excited about it. And it's just so brutal to watch those girls, and especially the moms, just beat her apart, because I've been in that situation where I've been to a dance competition when I was younger and the moms were brutal. They were like, your costume doesn't look good on you. You are out of touch with the rest of the group. And they were just horrible. And so like, I remember the first time I watched this movie, I was so taken by Olive's character, but I just didn't understand why. And obviously now that I'm an adult and can reflect back on that, it's just, and it really makes you like, because you really do root for her. You're like, just let her be her and just let her be weird and do her dance that she wants to do and love her family and just let her be a kid. Like, and you feel bad for the other girls that are in the beauty pageant because they're not kids. They're very sexualized.
Yeah.
And that's the issue with these kid beauty pageants, which is of course what they're pointing at, and why it's like Ishnor said, it was so uncomfortable to watch, because you're like, I hate seeing these girls like this, but their moms just put them in those situations because they think that's what being a woman is and being a girl is, and your femininity is expressed in that way, when it's not true at all. You can express your femininity in any way that you want to. It very much goes against the grain of the stereotype of what a girl is. And that's why Olive is such a great character, because she doesn't care. And she just is very much passionate about what she's doing and what she cares about. And she doesn't let other people influence that. Even when she does, I always think about that scene. And this is the one scene that always pops in my head every time I think of this movie, is when she's standing in front of the mirror and she's rubbing her tummy, and she can tell that she has a bigger stomach than the girls on the TV, the beauty pageant queens. And it's just like, it's so heartbreaking that she's having that, like, oh, I don't fit in because I'm bigger and I'm not as tiny as these other women that are winning like Miss America. So I think it's a very, very great exploration of womanhood and being a young girl, and how those things, how toxic femininity can impact you so easily.
There's also that gorgeous scene in the diner, and that is the scene that stays with me every time I think of the film, because again, as a bigger dancer myself when I was a kid, I really understand those themes. And there's that scene in the diner, the a la mode scene, where Olive gets waffles and ice cream, and the dad says, Olive, do beauty pageants eat ice cream because you're going to get fat. And Olive wavers. It's the only time in the film you see Olive go, like, she looks frightened, and it's borderline. It's one of those moments where, had she not eaten the ice cream, it could have been the start of an eating disorder. We've all had those moments where you're like, oh no, I shouldn't eat that. That's bad. I'm disgusting. It's so bad. And it's that moment where the family come together and support her and let her be her. Like, it's so poignant watching that scene and her eating that ice cream. You eat the ice cream, Olive. I was
so happy when the family was like, oh, don't listen to him. You can have the ice cream. And the dad was being such a freaking jerk. And I was like, I hate this man.
It's so bad. But what's awful is that it's not done. He's not villainized, because he is just trying to protect his daughter and teach her about healthy eating, but also it's an awful way to do it. Like, it's so,
and when he said the word,
shaming her,
when he said the word fat, I was just like, oh my God. Like, you could say it's not, it's not healthy for you to have ice cream all the time. Maybe you should have some fruit instead. But instead he was like, it'll make you fat. And I was like, oh,
you're not gonna win. Shut up, Dad, you're rubbish. I don't like him. Ishnor, did you have a favorite character?
Yes, Olive. Very similar reasons. First of all, I feel that Olive, she's very confident, right? And what she does is not in relation to anything else. So when like this one scene that really stays with me is that when she goes and gets the signatures of Miss California, and she asks, oh, do you have a talent? She's like, yes, I dance, and I dance really well. Right. So it is not in relation to, like, there's no comparison with anybody, because we've not seen her dance till that time. Right. But she comes on the stage and she dances the way she wants to dance, and she is happy with whatever she is doing. So her belief in herself that she dances really well doesn't come from the comparison, or doesn't come from the praise that she has received from the people, but it comes from her inner confidence that she has in herself. So that I really like about the character. And also I feel that this innocence, right? Like, not knowing what's happening in the world, no comparison, this innocence that, yes, I'm good, I'm going to go do it. it just takes her a long way. And this again, mother saying that let her be whatever she wants to do, even if she is different from everybody, right? I mean, wherever we have come, but let her be. Let her be her own individual. So that I really liked. So the space for her to grow for who she is, I think that's a very good point of this movie. And so that's just all for me.
Olive really is sort of the central figure in the film, and she's the one when all of the grown-up characters go through their individual crises, she's the one that drags them out, and her innocence and her hope is the saving grace of the film. And I think that's why when they all come together to support her during her crisis, it's like that fist bump, hell yeah moment.
Yeah.
Also, did you have something to say, Shelby?
Well, I was just gonna say that's like what is so, I think what's so wholesome and so sweet about the film is that Olive, you know these things are going to start pressuring Olive when she becomes a teenager and she gets into those awkward years of, she probably is going to develop an eating disorder because people have always called her fat. She's always compared herself to other people, but it's just so sweet seeing that she's just perfectly fine just being her. And like, that's just what's so lovely about it. And she's just like, I don't care. She's like, she tells the beauty queen, she's like, yeah, I dance good. And she's confident. She has that, she's so proud of herself. And like, that's not something you see in little girls or in women in general, because we're so beaten down and we're so told that like, oh, you're not as good as that person. And it's just lovely to see that she's like, yeah, she has this very authentic, happiness about herself. And she isn't like, she doesn't put herself down, and she's very confident. And I think that's just what makes her so lovely.
We all need to take a lesson from Olive's book there.
We do.
Yeah.
I've got one final question. And I think for me, I think the film is a celebration of mediocrity. Like Steve Carell's character is the number 2 Proust scholar in the entire country. Like, he's not number 1. He's not the best. And the dad is, they're all kind of stuck in their own ways. They all aren't great people. No one's particularly great at anything. Like Olive, she's a good dancer, but that's the whole point of the film. Why do you think the filmmakers and the film itself decided to make such a celebration of mediocrity? And do you think it works well? Do you like that it's the celebration of mediocrity? What do you think?
I love that it's a celebration of mediocrity because that's something that, a lot of movies are always like the main character is going to go on to do profound things and they're going to be the greatest person ever. And it really pushes the message of the movie that these are just average, everyday people, and that you're not going to become the bestseller of self-help. Your 5 steps or whatever it is that his steps are isn't going to change the world. You're not going to become famous off of it. Like, that's how life is. And you just have to accept your little victories when they come. Like, you can be awesome. Like, I'm the 2nd greatest scholar. Like, and you can strive for being number 1, but it's like, that's not going to happen. And in a normal movie, the main character would be like, I am number 1. I'm the best. And you're like, man, and then as the viewer watching that, you're like, oh man, I want to be number 1. I want to be best. But that's not really what's going to happen in real life. You're going to be more likely to become, number 2, or it's not going to work out for you. So I think that's a really, really great way of driving home that message without being like blunt. And, because they kind of do the same thing with Olive, where she's not good. Like, she doesn't fit into this beauty pageant. And they all know that she doesn't fit into it, but she's going to continue to do it anyways. And she's still like excited about doing it, even though she knows she's not, she might think she's going to win, but her family knows she's not going to win. And they don't discourage her from continuing to do it, for continuing to try. And I think it's that message of, you'll never achieve anything if you don't try. But even if you do try, sometimes you never achieve anything. And I think that's just something that you don't see a lot in movies, because they're always hyping up the main character. The main character is always the winner.
I also think it's really important sort of in the culture today, because I know that for the industry that we want to go in, a lot of people, tweet their wins and tweet how successful they are. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And you can get really consumed in like, I need to be like them, I need to do this, I need to do that. And not to like, it's quite a weird comparison I'm going to make, but Soul made me have a really profound, like, I am spending so much time trying to achieve things that I'm not actually living my life. And I think this film, in a really similar way, is like, you can work hard and achieve your goals, but make sure you actually enjoy your life and aren't killing yourself to achieve something that's unattainable. Live life, enjoy time with your family, and be silly and dance on the stage. I think that's one of its main teachings, and I love that about it.
Yeah, I love that, how it's a celebration of mediocrity and also celebration of being yourself, right? Just, I mean, try what you want to do, and even if you don't achieve it, the good thing is that you tried.
Yeah.
So like just be comfortable with yourself. So I think that's really important for me, because as I was always thinking that if I'm not the best, then I'm not doing enough. But now this film's like, nah, it's okay. You're doing whatever you can do, and that's fine.
And so similar to you, Neve, I work in art galleries as my day job. And I always think about like, these artists aren't ever going to be in MoMA, or they're never going to be in these big national museums. They're probably not going to be in history books for their art, but they're still selling their art. They're still making a living off of it. And it's sort of, you have to process in your head, I'm never going to be the best person. That's not going to likely happen. I'm never going to be Mark Commode. As much as I say I'm going to be Mark Commode, I'm going to take his job from him. But you have to appreciate the little victories when you get them. And, you say, I'm working really hard. Like if I look back to where I was 5 years ago, I would have never thought that I would be where I am today. Like, and that's really exciting. And although that's not as good as some other people that I know and what they're achieving, it's still exciting that I am able to do that for myself. And you have to take those little victories. And you're probably not going to be the most successful person. And like the same thing with the dad, like he doesn't get his book deal, but he's still I'm assuming being paid to go to give those lectures and those presentations about his 5 steps. So, he's still in a way becoming successful. He just has to keep working at it. But even though he'll never be what he wants to be, the greatest version of himself, and which is kind of ironic because he's going against what his 5 steps are. He just needs to accept the little victories that he does make. And I think that's a really great message from the story.
I think an important thing to remember in like the discussion of art and stuff that you brought up is that the people that we consider to be geniuses and masterworks who reinvented like the various forms that they create in, a grand majority of them didn't find success in their lifetimes. It's only after reevaluation, like even the Mona Lisa, for example, it's the most highly regarded painting in existence. And it only really started to get proper global attention in the early 1900s after it had been stolen in like 1912, I think. And again, today that is considered the masterpiece of masterpieces in the painting world. And it's the same with authors and painters and sculptures, not so much filmmakers generally, but in any kind of medium, success is never really kind of quantified in your lifetime. So why strive for greatness almost? And I think the film kind of does make that point to an extent. Like you said, the dad at the end, he doesn't have his book deal. And the son, he's never going to be a pilot like he wanted to. And the uncle is still he's still the number 2 Proust scholar. He doesn't get that back. Olive does it. These are big spoilers, by the way. If you haven't watched the film, I'm very sorry. But no one achieves what they wanted to at the beginning of the film, really. But it's more about the acceptance of that, not so much failure as much as just the reality of the situation and kind of moving on and finding joy where it still remains almost.
I think this may be the most profound we've ever had on a Filmies podcast. But I think the teaching that be happy in yourself and be happy in what you do is a great way to end this podcast.
Hopefully you've enjoyed our brief discussion today. If you're interested in contributing to our film and television blog, visit film-east/submissions for more information. To learn more about the Film East crew and what we do, visit our website, film-east.com, or follow us on any of our social medias at films_east.